Stop trying to fix your to-do list. Stop trying to solve your schedule. I know that those are the things that frustrate us, but the problem is that there are things in our life that are broken or are not working because they are driven by guilt. We make huge and a million small life choices based on guilt, based on people pleasing, based on unhealthy and unhelpful motivations because we're trying to do life right. And for Christian women, this is so important because we're trying to please God and we're trying to figure out what He wants. And yet most of the choices that we make, most of the things, the way that we manage our days, the things we say yes to or the things we say no to, comes from guilt, and guilt is not from God. It took me probably more like 15 years to figure this out because I was trying to create change. Like I had a pretty good idea of in a lot of different areas, the change that I was trying to create. I was trying to live slower. I was trying to rest in God. I was trying to read my Bible more. I was trying to give time to doing business stuff. And I gave a lot of time to business stuff, but I was so busy. I was constantly moving, but I was never moving forward. And it was all tied into this, like these unhealthy roots. Or I was trying to figure out like, okay, who am I in God's kingdom? And what has He called me to do? And what do I want to do? And so I would have different ideas of kind of like what I wanted to do or what I wanted to act on. But it never felt like that's what I was supposed to do or that's what other people were okay with. I never felt like I had the permission. And then it's like, why was I waiting for permission from other people in the first place? And again, it's just like so much of that gets summed up in guilt, where we are driven by guilt. So by towards the end of this video, or I guess maybe I'm guessing it'll be about the second half of the video, I'm going to walk you through a simple 5-step process for how to, I'll share just a scenario that faces a lot of us. And then we're going to walk through a 5-step process on how to shift that so that you can kind of see it in action. See it. By it, I mean the Start Where You're Stuck guide, which you can get in the description below. But again, we're going to go through those steps later on because guilt is driven by our identity. If we are trying to follow God and we're making, like, the place that you make your choices from is based on your identity. So if and it's not enough to just say, I am a child of God. I am rooted and grounded in Christ. I am whatever my Father in heaven is about, that's what I'm about. Those are really good things to say, but it takes time for that to actually become who we are. And we've got to work. It's a process as followers of Jesus. It's a process of working out how do we go from living based on who we were or who were even who we our identity in our church groups and in our families, where we could be around people who love us and they love God and they love each other and everything is just all good and wonderful. And yet we have no ability to prioritize the things that actually matter to us. Because if we did that, guilt just comes in on a tsunami and like it's like we don't even know what to do with it, the amount of condemnation that we feel if if someone says, hey, I need help this weekend. If our schedule's open, we're like, well, I have to help. I'm not supposed to do anything else. Like if they need help, I just have to help. And so, and rather than allowing ourselves or giving ourselves the permission to say, I can help, but I can't help this weekend, or like just to put some kind of a boundary or a buffer up, or to say, nope, I'm not available this weekend, or there's something in that for some of us, it is so triggering to say no to someone, or not yet, or does this time work instead? Even something that's simple. If someone says, hey, do you want to go for a walk at 10 a.m.? You're like, 11 would be way better, but I'm so worried about hurting their feelings that you know what, I'll just move my stuff around and I'll say yes to 10 a.m. We do this little dynamic because we're driven by guilt and we think it's God's voice, and it's just not. But that little dynamic is it drives so many things that we do in life. And you could so easily end up with I don't know if you can hear my baby. He started saying mommy in a really cute way. Um, but we make so like we basically end up, if we're not intentional with our lives, then and we might think we are, and yet it's like, even I was making so many choices out of what I thought I was supposed to do. They were all like, now when I look back, I'm like, so many of the things that I did was based on guilt or fear, or like I had no, I didn't even know that I could actually be intentional with my life. And so I was constantly reacting, constantly making choices rather than just asking for, if I was worried about what someone was thinking or if they were taking something the wrong way. Instead of just asking them, I was assuming, and then I would make a choice based on that. And then it's like the amount of energy that goes into constantly just reacting to things. And then, like I ended up filling up my life, and you're probably in a similar spot if you're still here watching this video, but where you're like just filling up your life with busyness because you're like, well, if my schedule's open and someone wants to fill it, I don't, then I don't have a choice. I can't say no. And so it's better, at least if I'm going to be busy, if my life is going to be chaotic, at least maybe I can fill it up first. At least that was my thinking. Like that was my unhealthy strategy. So all that said, grab the Start Where You're Stuck handout in the description below. If you are having like this recurring experience in your life where you're sick and you're tired and you're frustrated and you're annoyed at other people and you don't feel like you can change anything, then the Start Where You're Stuck handout is for you, which again, we're going to go over shortly. Okay, so super practical example, which is kind of funny because as I was looking over my notes, I'm like, the timing of this was really interesting because I went over my notes, or I created my notes, and then I ended up having a conversation with a friend who had this exact same experience. So we're going to talk about your quiet time with God, and just that morning time. I mean, regardless, whatever time of day, right? But a lot of us tend to our ideal is that we can get up in the morning, have a quiet time before we are interacting with anyone else or texting anybody, or it's just like we just cherish that quiet time in the morning where we can have our Bible, our journal, a good cup of coffee, and a quiet space to sit before the craziness of the day begins. So, and yet, what so often happens for a lot of us is that a text comes in, or maybe a couple texts comes in, or you've put your phone somewhere else, but then you can still hear that one ding. Like, it's like, I just want 20 minutes to sit here. And yet something comes in, or maybe someone texted you the night before, and before we know it, we've lost our quiet time because now we just sent a quick text back, and then it turns into a conversation. And that can leave us feeling kind of like, I mean, especially when that happens day after day after day, it's like, it's just sort of starts to feel like it's happening to us, and it's just the way the world works. It's just what happens, and we can't really control it, right? We're frustrated by it, but most of the time, if we don't know how to actually say, hey, I don't like what's going on here, this is what I'm going to do differently. The thing is, that's a learned behavior. Like, we actually have to learn to say, I don't like this experience, I'm going to stop whatever, or I'm going to change up what's happening. Until we know how to do that, we end up feeling like, I wish so-and-so would just stop texting me, or like, why can't they respect my time? Or maybe you did try to communicate to them that you can't text at 6 a.m. and yet they send a text because they're up at 5:50 and they quickly wanted to send something to you. Or maybe they're going to bed and they sent a text to you. And so then when you get up at 6 a.m., then you feel obligated to reply. And if we feel obligated, if we feel like, if I don't reply to them as soon as I possibly can, then if I'm awake and they've sent a text and I don't reply, then that shows that I don't love them or I don't care about them. So again, we're living out of guilt. That is a very guilt-based response. So step one on the Start Where You're Stuck handout, because now we're just going to go through these steps, because you're not stuck as you may feel, as frustrated as you might be. Your Bible time, your quiet time, your time with God is so easy to protect, but it does take some work to actually protect it. But the things that come up are, it's so tweakable, it's so changeable, and it just, again, you just have to put the work in. So step number one that you'll see on the handout is to name it, where we're just like, name your experience, name what is frustrating you, name who you are annoyed at, name what you feel when a text comes, name what you feel if you think of saying no to that text. So you're just naming everything that is everything that just needs to be said, right? Where if you are just like, honestly, whatever you feel, because sometimes there are things that we feel that we're like, I feel so bad to feel this or to even think this, and yet you got to just say it. And we're not saying this to other people, right? You can just journal it out, but where you just allow yourself some space to just name exactly what is going on, what is that experience that is so frustrating for you, that makes you feel stuck and annoyed at other people or yourself or whoever. Step number two is to own it. So this is the part that a lot of us feel like, well, I'm only replying because so-and-so texted me. And then we feel like, well, I'm taking this action because they did something. That is not owning it. That is still saying, I have no control over my actions, which you do, right? Like, we all know we have control over our actions. So when we're owning it, we're saying, yeah, I get up and I make my cup of coffee and I sit down and I pick up my phone. Like, I'm the one. No one else is making me pick up my phone. I'm picking up my phone. I'm looking at the text. I'm reading it and I am replying. That is all on me. So you're just naming, what exactly are you doing? Not what you're not worried about anything that anyone else did. Okay. Because life happens, things happen. You're going to have people, you could tell them 100 times to stop texting you at a certain time, or like, don't send a text after 9 p.m. and don't text me before 9 a.m. You could tell someone that and they still may not get it. Okay. So at the end of the day though, just because someone doesn't get it does not mean that you need to, like, that it does not mean that you don't have choice. Someone pushing you, whether they are trying to push your boundary or it just comes, just sort of happens, that it does not mean that you do not have control. So you got to just remind yourself, for as many times as is necessary, you can hold a boundary, and every time that you allow a boundary to be pushed, or every time that someone still does what they do, you can still, I had a moment of being distracted and I can't remember if I had said that right. So I'm just going to move on and hopefully you know what I mean. Okay, so number two is owning it. Step three is to create new choices. So in this step, we're basically saying, do anything other than what you've done up to this point. So if up to this point, when someone texts you, you immediately feel obligated to reply back, again, which is a very guilt-based response, then okay, I'm just going to say here that the thing is, like, you'll have someone who does not live with this constant guilt that drives every little thing in their life. And they'll just, if someone comes up, or if someone says, hey, do you want to do something on the weekend? They're like, if they're not driven by guilt or by condemnation or by people pleasing, then they'll just look at their schedule, or they'll look at their priorities and say either, if they want to do it, then they'll say, yes, they want to get together. And if they don't want to, or if it doesn't fit, then they'll just say, yeah, no, it doesn't work for me, without any, like, there's no guilt, right? So some people have an easy time doing that. So if you're someone who has a really hard time doing that, then I think at the very least, just acknowledge that you are trying to do life the right way. You are trying to do it the godly way. You're trying to show other people that you love them. You're trying to show God that you love them. And yet, if guilt is driving you, just at the very least acknowledge that is the place that you are making choices from. Knowing that you can change that you can work through that. So again, when we're going through these steps and creating these little shifts and changes, we're choosing the action we want to be taking. And along the way, okay, so step three then is us saying, What are just coming up with options, minimum of 3. What are 3 different things you could do? So either you can say, I'm going to communicate to people that, like, please don't text me before 9 p.m. and after 9 a.m. or until after 9 a.m. And did I say that right? So don't text me after 9 p.m. or before 9 a.m. You can totally communicate that. Or you can say, you know what? People are going to do what they're going to do. I'm not going to worry about that. And you can give people a heads up and say that I'm not going to reply to text after 9 a.m. And if it's an emergency, make sure it's an actual emergency, but you can call me. But otherwise, I'm not replying. So, and I think, like, you know, the thing that we've got to realize is that when we're creating boundaries, we're not just looking for how do we just do something different and let people figure it out. Like, you can give people a heads up and say, I'm trying to protect my Bible reading time, and this is what I'm working on. So if you don't hear from me, I'm fine, but I'm not replying anymore, and I'm going to keep on, even if I mess up my own boundary, I'm coming back to it, because it is not someone else's job to keep your boundaries. It is your job to keep your boundaries. And it's great if and when other people catch on, but at the end of the day, you can keep on keeping your boundaries. So again, in step 3, we're just coming up with, like, okay, how, if I want to protect this time, what can I do differently? So rather than hearing a text come in, picking up the phone and replying, you can either say, like, I'll read the text, but I'm not going to reply, which can be a little bit tricky because your brain already starts thinking about it. Or you can say, it's like, if they need me, they'll call, but otherwise I'm going to let a text come in, or put your phone on silent until 9 a.m. and just practice, I'm not replying. So there's many things that you can do, but I think it just comes with, basically just saying, if I'm, like, steps 1, 2, and 3 is acknowledging that if I am having an experience that is making me frustrated, resentful, or annoyed at other people, or at life, or myself, or even at God, then we're looking at that problem. We're owning the part that, like, whatever we're contributing that is perpetuating it. Because, like, the thing is, when you pick up your phone, nobody forces you to pick up your phone. Like, that, you are the one choosing to do that, which I think I was saying that before, but it's like, I'm not, like, okay, there's something in us, some of us, not for everybody, but there's something in us that makes us, when something happens, it just makes us feel like, oh, well, now I have no control. I just have to go with this. That is not true, right? That is a learned behavior, that when someone says, hey, can you help me out? Then you're already just going along with it, because you don't know any different. You don't know that you can actually change that. And that leaves us extremely frustrated in life and with other people. And it's not God, okay? Because that I think is what, whenever people need help, like, we've learned as Christians that we're just supposed to help them. Whatever they're asking for, we just need to do our best to fulfill it. And that makes us very out of control, very hands-off, very irresponsible with our life. And we've painted that as, like, that's a godly picture of what we should be, versus saying that is just plain irresponsible and not right. And what we actually get to do is to be intentional with our life. We get to say, this is my time, this is how I'm going to manage it. And I'm going to be very careful, especially, you know, if you have kids, or if you have family members or people that God has put in your life, or he's called you to do something specific. If you're going to do that specific thing, you need boundaries. And if you're not going to create boundaries, then stuff is for sure going to just flood in, and it's going to distract you, and it's going to throw you off track. So if you're just sick and tired of just being busy all the time, being scattered, going through life and not really knowing, that's the worst feeling, to go through, like, years of your life and looking back and saying, like, what am I doing with my life? If you don't really know what you're doing and you're just kind of always busy, there's a really good chance that you don't actually, you've yet to give yourself the permission to be intentional with your life. And so it's just a slow process of we're figuring it out, or naming what is bothering us, owning our part, because there's always something we're doing that's contributing to the problem, and then saying, okay, you know what, this is what I'm going to do instead. So again, that was step 3. Step 4 is to act on it. So back to the whole texting thing. If you're going to act on it, let's say if you set up the boundary and say that I'm going to, I used to always reply whenever someone would text. And so now I'm not going to reply to text until after 9 a.m. You might want to give, if people are used to hearing from you right away, if you just stop replying cold turkey, they might worry that you died. So you could give them a heads up and say, this is what I'm working on, right? We're not saying, would you stop texting me? We're saying, I'm working on this. And so I'm not going to reply. Or you can, whenever a text does come in, then you could just have a simple response and say, I saw your text, but I'm not, or I'll reply to it after 9 a.m. And that can just become your response anytime someone comes in before 9 a.m. Basically, there are so many ways that you can tackle this. And there's no excuse to not tackle this, to not create those gentle boundaries, and to not, you can do this kindly. And even if it's a little bit messy, or maybe you try to communicate to someone and they don't get it, then re-communicate. Go back to the drawing board, figure this out. So step 4 is just take some kind of action in that direction that helps you to navigate this. And just do something to set yourself up to make the choice that you want to make the moment that text comes in. Or the moment that you wake up and you see that, so-and-so sent you 5 texts and you're like, oh my goodness, this must be an emergency because they sent 5 texts in a row at 10 p.m. Okay. And then step 5 is to stick to the process. No. Okay. What is it? It's, okay. So step 1 is name it. 2 is own it, choose it, and then act on it and stick with it is step 5. So the thing is that so often we try something once, and if it doesn't work, right? Like you might be figuring out and realizing like, okay, I need to protect my Bible reading time in the morning. When I get up, I need that protected. So then you communicate to the 2 people who tend to text you, and you ask them to not text you at a certain time. And maybe they're like, oh, totally. I totally get that. I won't text at that time. Let's say 2 weeks later, they forget, right? And then they text you. And then you feel like, oh, well, that totally didn't work. And now I guess I'm just stuck replying, and because they texted, so I have to reply. That is the wrong way to do it. It is not other people's job. It's great if other people get it, but it's not their job to get it. So with step 5, we're just committing to this to the long haul, that if we change something, if we make a different choice in life, if it and it kind of backfires or it doesn't play out smoothly, then tweak it, change it, do something, keep on fiddling with this until you're carving out a life that works. Because if you find yourself frustrated or resentful with people, or if you find yourself feeling like you are just kind of at the mercy of your busy schedule and you can't control it, like it is your schedule, right? And but this is so much like, if our identity is in pleasing people, or if it's in just like, I'm just like who are you at the end of the day? And we know as Christians who we want to be, but then there's this, it's like, but who are we really? Like, where if you had no words. Okay, this is big thing. So if you had no words to describe who you were, and I just watched you for a week, what conclusions would I come to? Versus like, if we really want our identity in God, and we really want to be who we're longing to be, who He's called us to be, if we want to know that, we're not just saying, I want to be someone who rests in God, but we actually, that is our reality, that we know how to rest in Him. We know how to not let the weight of the world sit on our shoulders, because that's not our job. That is an identity shift. And so when we have that shift and go from being people-pleasing Christians to being a God-pleasing Christian, that comes like that shift takes us from making guilt-based choices to making just intentional, free choices where we know what God is asking of us, we know what He's expecting, and we know that we actually get to be our unique selves in His family. That being a follower of God does not mean that we erase ourselves. It means that we actually get to be who we are, fully alive in Him. And it is a huge desire of mine to help Christian women become fully functioning human beings in God's kingdom, that we would stop getting stuck playing the guilt game, playing the church games, playing the just kind of living the life that was just prescribed for them. That is like whatever was passed down or whatever everyone else does, that's what we're supposed to do, right? Because that leaves us frustrated and resentful and annoyed. And the thing is, like, if we just realize it, so I'm going to leave you with this, is that if you are like just overwhelmed, over busy, overstimulated, like just kind of your life is full of things that you don't really even enjoy. It's like, whose life am I living anyway kind of feeling. Start to solve the small things, because life, like I think one of the things that we need to learn is just that we've got to actually experience in small, safe ways that, okay, I can make a small shift. I can say, I've got 20 minutes of Bible reading time. Just learn to protect that. It's really small, but if you can learn to protect that and keep on sticking with it, keep on tweaking the process, don't give up until you have a protected Bible reading time, then there's something about when we can do that 6 months down the road, then you realize, like, I mean, the mental shift to go from feeling like you have no control over your life to realizing I actually figured out how to protect 20 minutes of my time. Now I'm going to protect 2 hours of my time. Now I'm going to protect 2 days out of the week. Like then that I think the big thing is that we just have to learn that we can actually healthily make choices or tweak something. And that it doesn't mean that we don't love people. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It doesn't just all the guilt and the condemnation, all the accusations that we're hearing in our head, those aren't true. And it just takes a slow, gentle process of making choices and of dealing with the thoughts that come up. And we're bringing them to God. We're asking for help. And so that we can be someone who actually lives from a place of being who we are in Jesus, not who we've been, or not like living from a place of just being driven by guilt. It's a very stressful life to live from that place. And I don't want that for you. So, okay, that is all. So lastly, remember to read the Bible, get lost in the story of God, and play your part. And I will talk to you soon.